We begin with breaking news tonight. Autopsies confirm triple murder suspects Cam McLeod and Briar Schmigelski are dead. Investigators also confirming the two shot and killed themselves. The RCMP say two guns were found next to the bodies discovered in Manitoba. The exact time or date of their deaths are not known, but it's believed both were dead for a number of days before they were found. Investigators say there are, quote, strong indications that the two men had been alive for a few days since they were last seen in July. The two men's bodies were found last week. The RCMP say they will test the two guns to determine if they were used in the murders of the three people in northern British Columbia. The murders McLeod and Schmigelski were wanted for.
I just saw the Corvette just kind of weaving in and out. That was it. And then, boom, I just heard it.
A horrific crash on the 401 last night involving two cars and a tractor trailer leaves two people dead and three others injured. The 401 eastbound lanes reopened this morning after being closed for more than 12 hours. Linda Ward was at the scene earlier today.
Crews are just in the process of removing the cab of a tractor trailer here. You can see just how burnt out this tractor trailer is. Around 9:30 last night, it was involved in a devastating chain reaction crash here on Highway 401, one of Canada's busiest highways. It's been closed throughout the morning rush. Now, earlier today, they also towed from the scene here the flattened shell of a red Corvette, as well as a crushed-in silver Mazda that were involved in this crash. We spoke with one witness who was on this road right when the crash happened.
I was like about 3 seconds behind the Corvette, and I heard a boom. And then at which point I saw flames, and then I stopped like about, say 100 meters away from the accident. And as I was walking up, people were just recording with their phones, so I actually decided to try to see if I could help. And then I saw that the driver of the Corvette, he was in pretty bad shape.
Police say the 34-year-old driver of that red Corvette was killed in this collision, as well as the 77-year-old passenger of a silver Mazda that was driving on the highway here, just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. The OPP say this may have been caused by erratic driving.
At some point around 9:30, a red Corvette apparently lost control for some reason, got in front of the transport truck and was T-boned or collided with. That sent the transport truck out of control as well, over the concrete wall into the express lanes as well, tangling up another silver Mazda with two occupants in that vehicle. The transport truck rolled over onto its side, was completely consumed by fire, and the driver was able to get out on his own.
Police say it's amazing we aren't dealing with more fatalities, but for the families of those killed here last night, the most difficult part is knowing that this was avoidable. Police are asking anyone with dash cam footage from the highway last night to contact them to provide police with answers and those families with closure. Linda Ward, CBC News, Mississauga.
And police are trying to figure out why a car crashed into a playground this morning. It happened around 9 at the King Edward Junior and Senior Public School near College in Bathurst. The car reportedly crashed into a stop sign, continued through a fence before smashing into the playground. Luckily, there were no children in the playground at the time. The TDSB said they are aware of the accident and they will test the structure to see if it's safe for the kids to return. No charges have been laid yet.
If you're one of many Canadians who's turned to Home Depot for home renovations, one Mississauga woman is warning that it could go off the rails. She spent $27,000 on an accessible bathroom renovation she says was botched. And months later, she's still waiting for a fix from Home Depot. I'm Lauren Pelly, and all of that story coming up.
Field police have released a composite sketch of the person they believe was behind the fatal stabbing in Brampton earlier this month. Police say this is what their suspect looks like. The man is wanted in connection with the stabbing death of 63-year-old Glensbert Oliver. In the early hours of August 2nd, Oliver and his son were at their home on Landbrook Drive when they saw a group of men breaking into vehicles on their street. An altercation ensued and the father and son were both stabbed. Police also released a picture of the kind of vehicle the men were seen fleeing in. It's a dark-colored, possibly gray Lexus RX 350, model year 2010 to 2015. Anyone with information is asked to contact field police. A Toronto man has been arrested in connection to a shooting at a nightclub in North York last week. Several gunshots were fired inside District 45 near Finch and Keele on August 5th. 4 people were shot. 1 person suffered serious injuries. The other 3 were non-life-threatening. 30-year-old Ken Neil Lloyd McLennan is facing 8 firearm-related charges, including knowingly manufacturing firearm and ammunition. Those last 2 charges stem from allegations McLennan made modifications to both gun and bullets. It's been a violent start to the month here in Toronto. A surge of shootings around the city since the August-long weekend has now prompted direct action by all 3 levels of government. Today, Ali Chiasson has been following this for us. And Ali, the normal tension between the city, the province, and the feds not present for this issue.
That's right. All 3 levels of government coming together rather quickly on this. Here's the urgency. We've had 32 shootings since the beginning of the month. Now the police get $4.5 million from the city, the feds, and the province. What will they do with that money? It's pretty vague right now, but according to Mayor John Tory, who coordinated this, it is to, quote, support police efforts to keep communities safe and to help redouble efforts to prevent criminal activity and combat the activities of street gangs. The police chief said he'll provide an update on their action plan and where that money goes in the coming days. And he reiterated also today that quote, we know that most gun violence in Toronto is directly connected to street gang activity. The Toronto Police Service has a comprehensive plan to address the issues we're facing. I will launch the services plan in the coming days, and we will continue to work with our communities to reduce gun violence in our city.
So, Ali, both today and last week, the chief singling out street gangs as the cause for most of the gun violence, but they're not naming which gangs.
That's right. He didn't want to empower them. And today I spoke with Adam Ellis. He grew up in a West End street gang. He says they didn't have an official name. He got out of that life and is now getting his PhD in criminology from U of T, which is bolstered by his lived experience. Have a listen to his take.
He's not going to be naming the gangs because he doesn't want to empower them. Is that a good strategy?
We can look at it from 2 points of view. I think from the street perspective, the youth who are in this group, it could lay some credence and give them an identity that they never had before. On the flip side, not too many gangs necessarily want their name out there.
Yeah, because
right?
that brings heat to them, right?
It brings heat, police attention, right? And now you're in the police books. For every neighborhood is different. In one neighborhood, you might have guys sitting around a table and say, hey, we want to be X, Y, and Z. This is the name of our social group, right? In other aspects, young people are just growing up into it and they don't even realize. Like for me, I just grew up into it, drifting towards friends that were able to protect the community and protect each other. We never saw each other as, oh, a gang, and we never named ourselves. It's just something that happened. And then you kind of fall into it, and then you realize, oh, at school there's this thing called Bloods and Crips, or in your community reps red or blue, right? Then you kind of just automatically fall into that. Gang is a social construct and is their terminology. That's not a terminology from the streets. We see ourselves as friends, a family. At least my experience from my research was that a lot of these people are just groups of young men trying to survive the neighborhood.
What did it take for you to get out?
For me, it was the passing of my mother. My mom passed away from cancer, and I was like 19, 20 at the time. That had a huge impact on me. And it just made me start to reflect and say, who am I? Is this what I'm doing? Is this going to make her proud, right? So you start having those conversations with yourself at that age.
What will make the biggest difference?
How do you undo all these years of making this young person numb to life? And then you put them in a cage and you say, young man, you're gonna come out of the cage and you're gonna be somebody. No, you're not. You're coming out of the cage and you're going right back to the war zone. The bigger issue is that we have a system that's so focused on crime and to punishing people who do crime instead of seeing it through a public health lens, which sees people as hurt.
So investments like today's news about the $4.5 million going directly to police to tackle the issue, someone like him would say or see that as more of a Band-Aid solution, and getting more long-term investments into the communities themselves he sees as more important in the long term. In Mayor John Tory's statement today, he said he will continue to talk to the provincial and federal governments about getting investments to address the, quote, root causes of this kind of violence. Send it back to you, Dwight.
Thank you, Ali.
If it seems like Toronto has a lot of breweries these days, that's because apparently we really do. And your report says that compared to other Canadian cities, it's not even close. I'm Nick Boisvert, and coming up, we'll look at those numbers and talk about how much more the market can handle.
She's the first Canadian woman to win the Rogers Cup in 50 years. Bianca Andreescu beat arguably the best tennis player in the world yesterday when she beat Serena Williams. She abruptly pulled out of the final due to a back injury. The champ visited our building this afternoon to speak to Adrian Arsenault about making her dreams come true. Here she is describing the moment she realized she won.
At that moment, I felt... It's hard to find a word to describe it. I'll just say weird, because at that moment I did realize that I just won the Rogers Cup, but it's not the way I've expected it to be like. And I don't know, my instinct just wanted me to go give her the biggest hug possible because I felt for her so much. I told her that she's a beast and that she's going to bounce back really quick. She is a champion on and off the court, and she's an inspiration. I've watched her play my whole childhood and my whole career growing up, and being able to share the court with her yesterday, even for 4 games, was amazing.
One day later, and it's still the talk of the tennis world. Greg Ross is at the Racquet Club in Mississauga, where she trained as a youngster. Greg, the under-18 Junior National Tennis Championships are there today. I'm sure most of them are still talking about the big win, though.
Well, absolutely, Dwight, because many of these young tennis players here have known about Bianca Andreescu long before this breakout season that she's having this year. So there's no doubt that they were watching and cheering her on in the finals this week. And in fact, many of them were right here at the Ontario Racquet Club in Mississauga watching, because they had to train for this tournament that they're playing in right now. And now, we didn't get the match in the finals that many were hoping for and expecting, but what we did get was a very special moment at the end that many of these young tennis players tell me they won't soon forget. They are the next generation of Canadian tennis hopefuls, competing at the same club that Bianca Andreescu was once a member, and the same tournament that she won as a 15-year-old back in 2015. And now, 4 years later, she's winning the Rogers Cup. I mean, what goes through your mind when you think about it?
Well, it's really cool to see another Canadian having that success, and now we get to train at the same place she trained at with the same coaches, and it's inspiring to see her doing so well. 15-year-old Mia Kupras and 14-year-old Marina Stakuzic have both been invited to the National Training Center in Montreal starting in September, the same place Andreescu trains now.
If we're like kind of on the same path as her, maybe it could happen. Hopefully.
They say they're not only inspired by her success on the court, but also the way she handles herself off of it, something we saw a glimpse of in Sunday's final. Wow. A candid moment caught on camera. The veteran Williams wiping away tears after being forced to withdraw while being consoled by the 19-year-old Andreescu. Many of these young players were watching.
I thought it was like very professional for her to come in and support her.
But it's nothing new to Assad Juno, who's been coaching Andreescu for the last 2 years. Were you surprised to see Bianca do that?
No, really. She's got that care for people. That's one thing that impressed me the most when I started working with her. She makes you feel like you're part of the team right away. And that's something that I think we connect really well.
And it's one of the big reasons she's a hit with many of these younger players. Many have had their own experiences with her.
I hit with her once, and she was just having a regular conversation, I guess. I could say that I hit with a Rogers Cup champion, Indian Wells champion. Like, it's cool.
Now, if only some of these young players could have the same meteoric rise that Andreescu has had. Just to put it into perspective for you, Dwight, going into last summer, she was 182nd in the world tennis rankings. When the newest rankings were released today, she had moved up all the way to 14th.
Yeah, she put in the work, man. Well deserved. Thank you for that, Greg. And you can watch Adrian Arsenault's full interview with Bianca tonight on The National. I was up there for the match yesterday.
Were you?
Rushed back from cottage country, sat down in my seat, ready to go. We got 19 minutes of tennis. And you know what? I was rooting for the hometown kid anyway, so it worked out.
That's amazing. And you got to be there for that moment. I mean, really setting an example, she is, right? So, you saw history, even if it was only about 20 minutes long. Let's show you what's going on with our weather headlines here. So a few showers out there. Yeah, they're pretty isolated and kind of hit and miss, but we have some of those still this evening. Those are going to be winding down. Midweek, we're going to see a real change in terms of some cooler air pushing in. It's going to give you a moment where you kind of pause and think, oh yeah, fall's not that far away. But we're not going to get ahead of ourselves, because at the end of the week, the sun and the heat, everything coming back at us as we head towards the weekend. Current temperatures, 28 degrees in the city, feeling 32, feeling 34 in Markham, Oshawa, 32 there for the Humidex. And you can see on the radar, it's not raining everywhere. A lot of cloud cover out there still, but a few areas very spotty, getting into some of these downpours. Give it a couple of hours. By about 9 o'clock, maybe one little cell left, so most of it gone just in the next few hours here by about 8 o'clock. And then we get into a partial clearing trend through the overnight, so becoming partly cloudy. A little more cloud cover, though, further to the south of us, towards Hamilton, around towards St. Catharines, even a chance for a few spotty showers there into tomorrow afternoon. That's due to a system that's going to be tracking south of the area. Otherwise, it looks like a pretty decent day around the GTA. So overnight tonight, 18 degrees. We'll get rid of these showers shortly. And then tomorrow afternoon, 26. As for that cooler air that's going to move in, Dwight, I'll show you what those temperatures look like coming up.
Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
The federal election campaign hasn't officially kicked off yet, but the government is digging deep, making several spending announcements. And Thibodeau will bring us up to speed on the money game of this election. That conversation after the break. Stay with us.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was in the Parkdale neighborhood today announcing funding to legal aid for refugee and immigration cases. The money is meant to offset cuts made by the Ford government earlier this year.
Yet another Conservative government, the government of Doug Ford, is walking away from services to the most vulnerable. Is really frustrating. And Conservative politicians like to say they're for the people, but then they end up cutting services for the most vulnerable.
The money is a one-time top-up of $26.8 million. Back in April, Legal Aid Ontario's funding was cut by $133 million, which led to province-wide protests. At the time, Ontario argued the refugee system is the federal government's responsibility. Another federal announcement in the city this morning, this time from Trudeau's Minister of Immigration, saying they are providing nearly $1.8 million in funding for early childhood development projects in the GTA.
So these projects are an important part of a bigger vision that we have as a government. We are investing over $7.5 billion over 11 years to support and create more higher quality, affordable childcare spaces across the country.
The projects are aimed at finding new ways to improve childcare services. Toronto Liberal MP Adam Vaughan says the city has been struggling with daycare spaces, and the funding will help children build the skills they need to succeed.
When you create those and sustain those resilient children, you create stronger families, more beautiful neighborhoods, and the city that we love. But it starts and it is centered and it is focused on making sure that Canadian children, Toronto children, children in this neighborhood get the supports they need to be those resilient kids.
The money will fund a total of 7 projects around the city, including studies on early learning, childcare, and improving staff qualifications. Those announcements, just 2 in what's been a very busy day for the Liberals. They had representatives all over the country today making pre-election pledges. Hannah Thibodeau has been watching all of this for us. And Hannah, I just said pre-election,
yes.
But I feel like, did we miss the official start of this election?
Not yet.
Okay.
Still a few more weeks to come before that.
Of campaigning being done today, it feels like.
Absolutely, from the Liberal
Yes.
government. Now, remember, this is a Monday. This is just one day. And take a look at how many announcements were made by the Prime Minister, his cabinet ministers, as well as MPs. Yep, you can see that list scrolling along there. There are 20 announcements that they made today.
Just today.
Just today. Those are funding announcements, most of them. So we know the Prime Minister made an announcement to help with legal aid for immigrants and refugees. That was more than $26 million. We also had Marc Garneau at the Montreal port making an $18 million announcement for truck traffic, helping that with infrastructure as well as security. And then we had Ralph Goodale, and he made an announcement of $560,000. He was in Regina, and this is for mapping, flood mapping.
Okay.
So, yes, they are all out there. And the reason for this is, too, the government has money to spend before the writ period actually begins. So they want to get that money out there. They want that flowing. But also, it's to get attention. Because if you look at the areas that we see, 7 of those announcements were made in the Atlantic provinces. In the last election campaign, the Liberals swept the Atlantic provinces. They won all the seats there. But this time around, if you look at polls, they're having a bit of problems out there. So they want to get that attention. But also one of the other things you have to look at is the areas that they make these announcements. Before these 20 were made, in the 905 area, we noticed that the Liberal government was making a whole slew of announcements in this area. And that's because, well, they want to get the infrastructure dollars out there. But if you look at the different ridings, they're very close.
It's strategic here. They're doing this.
Of course it's strategic.
Yes. And
all governments do it, too.
Yes, they do. Even though the other parties are complaining today, if they were in government,
Yes,
they'd likely
absolutely.
be doing something similar. Let's talk about the leaders' debate. We now know when that will be held.
Yeah, so the leaders' debate, the English will be held on October 7th. The French language debate will be held on October 10th. So who will be in and who will be out? There is one person who will not be in those leaders' debates. Maxime Bernier, the People's Party of Canada. You see, all the other 5 leaders will be attending. However, Maxime Bernier is not invited. There's a couple of reasons for that. The first one being is that the People's Party of Canada does not have an MP in the House of Commons.
No. Because he was not elected as a People's Party of Canada MP.
He was elected as a Conservative MP back in 2015 before he left that party to go start the People's Party of Canada. And not only that, the commission looked at different polls, they talked to pollsters, and they felt that there wasn't a chance that he would win more than one seat in the election campaign. However, he does have a chance to appeal this. He can send the commission a list of 3 to 5 ridings that he thinks that his party could potentially win. They'll take a look, reevaluate, and see maybe if they might potentially allow him in the debate.
I hear more about that one.
I think we will for sure.
And we'll be bugging you throughout this as we lead up to this election. Feels like we've already started. Thank you,
We really
Hannah.
have. Thanks.
If you want to stay up to date on all things related to the vote, sign up for CBC's election newsletter. You'll get analysis from Power and Politics host Vashi Kapelas, the latest poll tracker data from CBC poll analyst Eric Grenier, and much, much more. You can sign up at cbc.ca/election newsletter, and we'll deliver it right to your inbox every Sunday evening. It's become a popular way to get your food, and tomorrow there may be a major change coming for Fedora bike couriers. It's a members' vote to become Canada's first unionized app workers.
You realize that the amount you're getting paid really isn't that much when you have to deduct, the amount of expenses.
We'll bring you that story after the break. For more than 5 months, a Mississauga car crash survivor has been living with a botched bathroom renovation. She paid Home Depot close to $30,000 for an accessible bathroom, but she says the walk-in tub installed by a third-party contractor caused major water damage in her home. As Lauren Pelly shows us, the busted bathroom has derailed her rehabilitation efforts, and she's calling on Home Depot to find a fix.
This shouldn't go like this. When it closes, see, it opens because it's not leveled.
Dejana Cambic has spinal cord damage from a car crash 6 years ago. She hoped this therapeutic tub would help ease her chronic pain and bring her life closer to the way it was before.
Washing my hair was difficult because I need help sometimes, but this way it would make me independent, so I can walk into the bathtub, sit and wash my hair and be independent.
Why does that matter so much to you?
Because I was independent one time.
More than 5 months later, she can't actually use the tub. A shoddy installation led to leaking and water damage in the living room below.
Right up there, that's the bulkhead. And that was before, when the tub was installed at first, the bulkhead had lifted and there was marks all over the ceiling.
Cambic says there's also a strange headache-inducing smell. She's running multiple air purifiers to keep it at bay.
I feel like I'm back 10 steps, and I just thought that this was going to help me and I was going to progress.
Cambic paid Home Depot roughly $27,000 to renovate the bathroom and install the tub through a third-party contractor. 2 outside inspectors told her that installer botched the job. The contractor's faulty workmanship led to many defects and caused the unit to fail, reads one report from a restoration company. While a plumbing specialist wrote, I went through the warranty checklist and found 5 things that I can definitely say were not checked.
I don't even believe that this is happening. Like, I thought, calling them in, they would do the right thing and fix it.
In an email, Home Depot told us there's a team working to make sure Cambic is satisfied, but they didn't tell us how or when. The company also didn't respond to our questions about how they hire third-party contractors.
Lawyers do hear about these issues on a fairly regular basis.
This labor lawyer says renovations get more complicated when there's a middleman.
You end up in a situation where, you may have the parties pointing at each other, in terms of who's at fault if something goes wrong.
Experts recommend documenting any renovation issues, which Cambic did. But even with evidence in hand, she's still waiting for a fix.
I'm dealing with so much right now, like financially I'm not stable right now, especially with what I'm going through. So yes, it's very disappointing.
Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Mississauga.
An Elmira man is speaking out after he was denied life insurance. He claims Sun Life Financial rejected his application because he has an anxiety disorder.
Took it like I was failing my family, and you worry, right? Like, what if something were to happen to me? If I had never sought help for this, I would have been approved no problem. And to me, that's scary.
Robert Pugh said he was told that the rejection was due to his mental health condition, but that he could reapply in 6 months. Some advocates are concerned this could dissuade people from getting life insurance. It also could mean some people may not disclose their medical issues or even get treatment in the first place.
The point of getting the insurance is in the unlikely event that you have a claim. Hopefully an unlikely event, you want that insurance to be there to pay it for you. So to have a policy where you have to withhold information and then put in a claim and find out it's not going to get paid out, that's really not going to be the solution you're looking for. The pain later will be much worse than the pain of not getting the coverage right now.
In an email statement, a Sun Life spokesperson said the company recognizes anxiety as one of the most common health conditions, but there are times when people will be denied coverage for it. The spokesperson also said, quote, for privacy reasons, we don't provide details on individual cases, but I can tell you that we've been in contact with Robert. We are currently reviewing his case and working towards a solution. Bike couriers for the food delivery app Fedora could make history when it comes to Canada's gig economy. Couriers in Toronto and Mississauga have until tomorrow to vote on whether to join the Canadian Union of Postal Workers. If they do, they would create Canada's first certified bargaining unit for app-based employees. Philippe de Montigny has more on courier concerns and how Fedora is trying to convince them not to go the union route.
Brice Sofer picks up and delivers meals to customers through Fedora. After working for the popular app for 4 years, he decided it was time to join a union.
Have a good day. You too, thanks.
Couriers get $4.50 per delivery plus $1 per kilometer, but only for the travel between the restaurant and the customer.
We're not paid for the distance that we have to travel to pick up the delivery. So what that means is that for maybe 50% of the time that we're working, that work is not paid.
He says there's also no safety protections or compensation.
There's a lot of times where I've been injured or my bike has been damaged. When I've had to repair my bike and pay for data on my phone, you realize that the amount you're getting paid really isn't that much when you have to deduct, the amount of expenses.
Couriers in Toronto and Mississauga have until noon Tuesday to decide on whether to join Canada's postal union. But organizing app-based workers has been a bumpy road.
If we succeed on it, it will create a precedent. And
CUPW Vice President Jean-Philippe Grenier believes a successful outcome could be a watershed moment for the gig economy. Fedora claims that a union cannot guarantee better work conditions, and members would have to pay dues up to $1,100 a year, and is encouraging its couriers to vote against joining the union, sending emails and push notifications directly through the app. CUPW filed a complaint to Ontario's Labour Board.
They use their apps for deliver the information on their apps. I think that it's unfair, and the other thing, they provide the wrong information.
In a statement, the company told CBC Toronto, "We don't believe that our couriers need a union to effect change. Fedora has always had an open-door policy for couriers to drop by any time to discuss their challenges or issues with us." The company says it will honor voting couriers' choices, regardless of the outcome. Philippe de Montigny, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, when you work for an app like Fedora, your boss is not a human being, but an algorithm. To read more about that relationship, head online to our website. That's at cbc.ca/Toronto. Now, we know that Torontonians love their beer, and now a new report is confirming that. It's saying that the GTA is home to the most breweries and wineries in Canada, soaring past places like Montreal and Vancouver. Nick Boisvert has more on those numbers and examines whether this city is reaching a saturation point.
Today, it's a work in progress. By Labor Day, this will be Toronto's newest craft brewery.
This is going to be the home of Beaches Brewing Company, and it's going to be a brew pub, our bricks and mortar site for the brand. There's so many.
Carl Pratt started the company 5 years ago when the craft beer scene was booming. 5 years later, he says the wave is still going strong.
I think it's going to make sense because there's quite a lot of demand for it. Even still, no one's really worried about competition or anything yet because we all have our niches.
But the city's craft beer scene is getting more crowded every year, and according to Stats Canada, Toronto's market has shot past all competition. The latest data says Toronto is home to nearly 170 breweries and wineries per 1,000 square kilometers. That's more than twice the number in Montreal and more than 3 times Vancouver's market.
Can you keep track of all the breweries that are coming out of Toronto that you come across?
No. We've been talking to the bartenders here, and they're telling us stuff we've never heard of.
There is a ton, though, that's for sure. There's absolutely a ton of them.
There's a lot.
The founder of Left Field Brewery says the Stats Canada numbers are interesting, but at this point, there's a better comparison to make.
If you look at places like Oregon in the United States, they're at 40% market share of craft beer, and it's just something that we haven't really seen any slowdown in the growth numbers on.
In Ontario, the craft industry makes up about 10% of the total beer market.
We've only seen the demand grow and not shrink every single year. And so I think there's still lots of space. If you're doing it well and you're delivering on what the beer drinker wants, there's lots of space.
No one knows just how much more room there is, but Ontario's Craft Beer Industry Group expects their market share to double within the next 5 years. Nick Boisvert, CBC News, Toronto.
Vaughan-based cannabis company Contra saw its shares plunge this morning as Health Canada found a second one of their facilities in violation of certain regulations. Health authorities found the company had been producing cannabis plants in unlicensed greenhouses at their Vaughan site early last month. This is the second time this has happened. Health Canada stopped the sale of their products just a month ago after finding their facility in Pelham, Ontario was doing the same thing. This scandal caused the firing of their CEO and board chair. Contra shares plunged 25% before the markets opened this morning. U.S. Attorney General says both the FBI and the Justice Department are now investigating the apparent suicide of Jeffrey Epstein. The wealthy and well-connected financier was being held on federal sex trafficking and conspiracy charges in New York when he was found dead Saturday morning.
We are now learning of serious irregularities at this facility that are deeply concerning and demand a thorough investigation.
U.S. media reporting serious lapses in how Epstein was monitored while in federal custody, lapses that occurred even though he apparently attempted suicide 2 weeks ago. Two guards, both working on extreme overtime, were supposed to check on him every 30 minutes, but didn't. And though Epstein wasn't supposed to be alone, his cellmate had recently moved. His death came just days after thousands of court documents were unsealed, revealing new details about the sex trafficking accusations. Epstein had links to many high-profile men, including Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, and Prince Andrew. Regular scheduled flights are slated to resume at Hong Kong's international airport sometime tonight after a shutdown due to a sit-in by thousands of pro-democracy demonstrators. Their presence at the main terminal grounded flights for hours. Travelers standing by say the crowds have been peaceful.
I was warned that there's going to be a protest, but I didn't think it would be this many people.
The airport is one of the busiest in the world, and protesters have been conducting a sit-in there for several days. They are calling for more autonomy from mainland China, but they also want an inquiry into aggressive policing tactics against them. Those tactics were in evidence on the weekend with police wielding batons and firing tear gas as they cracked down on demonstrators. One protester suffered a ruptured eyeball after police fired a beanbag round way too close to her face. The clashes have hardened opinions on both sides of the divide, plunging Hong Kong and Beijing into serious political crisis. We spoke to some people heading to that area at Pearson today about how they're feeling.
We're very, very anxious about it, yeah.
Yes, I do a little bit concerned about that.
I'm worried about getting caught in the middle of a fight when I get there.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried. I've spoken to the staff already, and the staff has said there is a potential that the plane could be delayed leaving.
We were supposed to stay in Hong Kong for 3 days, but we've cancelled that, and I've got friends in Hong Kong, and they've also agreed that we should perhaps just go straight on to our home destination.
Ottawa has advised Canadians to exercise a high degree of caution when traveling to or within Hong Kong. As we head to break, here's a look at where the markets closed today. The TSX was down by over 103 points. The Dow Jones was also down by 391, and the Canadian dollar traded for an average of 75.55 cents US. Stay with us. We'll be right back. It's not too late if you want to get a glimpse of the Perseid meteor shower. The light show will hit its peak tonight through tomorrow morning. It's predicted that 80 streaks of light an hour will flash through the sky. The Perseid meteor shower is an annual event that happens when the Earth passes into the stream of a comet's particles. And I know you know all about this stuff, Khaled, so will this be a good night to be looking up?
Yeah, excellent question, right? So that's why I put it tonight, weather permitting. You know what? It's actually a pretty good night in terms of the weather, but there's just a few things to take into consideration, and that is essentially that we have to think about when's the best time to do this viewing. Well, when we get into a really dark sky, so it's best viewed just before dawn. We'll probably have a few clouds out there, not a lot, but the other thing to be aware of is that we have a fuller moon, and when you get that light in the sky, that can kind of have an impact. But anyway, you've got to get away from the city lights. There's no doubt about it, and you have to be willing to be up essentially in the middle of the night or wee morning hours. All right, this is what we have for our current temperatures then. 28 degrees, a little cooler for Oshawa and Peterborough, 25, but 28 coming in there at St. Catharines as well. We add a few degrees at least to get that humidex, so quite a bit of humidity all the way back towards Windsor, peaking there at 35 with that humidex. And then some of these spotty showers that we've been seeing. So there's not a lot of activity there. You can see it's almost kind of hugging the shoreline here, the northern shores of Lake Ontario, and then a few back towards the southwest of the city as well. Another hour or two, and then this is really winding down, and we'll get into some drier conditions. We'll keep a little extra cloud cover, though, through areas from Hamilton around towards St. Catharines. That'll be a little bit more difficult to get rid of, and that's due to a system passing to the south. So even a slim chance for some showers there, greater chance into southwestern Ontario, but looking pretty good. The cloud may change at times, but we should have quite a bit of sunshine Tuesday through the GTA, and then into Wednesday, it looks nice as well. Basically in the next 24 hours, though, with a couple of systems trying to work their way through, we're going to see our winds kind of doing a whole 360. So we've got winds out of the southwest right now. Those are going to change overnight more northerly, and then tomorrow we'll see them come around to the east and eventually the southeast. So that's what I mean. We're going to see the real flow of those winds around. But overnight tonight, 18 degrees in most cases, a few exceptions with some of that extra cloud cover, so 19 for the overnight lows. Again, we're still running about 5 degrees above seasonal for those overnight lows. A look at tomorrow afternoon, I'm probably being a little bit conservative here because with a little extra sunshine, these temperatures, some of them may spike up towards 27 or could have the odd 28, but essentially what we're getting towards is that as we get towards midweek, we're going to see the temperatures coming down a little bit and some cooler air working its way in. So if you have a look at Wednesday, talking about some sunshine, sure, but the temperature 24 degrees. Thursday, 23 degrees. And as I was mentioning earlier in the show, when you get a couple days like that and there's not really any humidity, it reminds you that yeah, not only the CNE coming, but the end of summer and fall's not that far away. But don't worry, because then as we get towards Friday, and by the way, Thursday night into Friday, good chance for some showers, so late day Thursday into Thursday night, we're going to see the temperatures, Dwight, coming back up again, and some of that humidity coming back at us by next weekend, too.
I love the way you get your friend Mother Nature to turn up the heat just in time for the weekend. Thank you, Colin.
Yeah, we're not done with her, that's right.
They are taking a break, quote, to enjoy life. Coming up, we'll tell you the details of this famous K-pop band that is putting the brakes on their music for now. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
can't call me idol.
They are one of the biggest musical groups on the planet. BTS is beloved in the world of K-pop. A world also known for relentless pressure on its stars. Now, BTS is bucking that trend by taking a break. Stephanie Skenderis joins us with more on this now, when teens and tweens all over the planet sad today because of this BTS break.
Yeah, so, you know, to us in North America especially, it may not sound like that big a deal that a group is taking a break. We're kind of used to artists, you know, releasing some music, maybe going on tour, and then even taking a couple of years off before they release more music. But in the world of K-pop, this is pretty much unheard of. And as to why this is such a big deal, well, to get the big picture, I mean, it's basically what you were saying, Dwight. This is a world that is ultra competitive, where there is extreme pressure put on these K-pop stars to be perfect, to look perfect, at the price of a seeming disregard for their health. So the fact that BTS is even doing this, you know, being so outspoken and saying that they're going on a break, that really says something, how significant this is. K-pop stars are called idols, and the 7 members of BTS are the biggest idols out there. This song that you're seeing is just an example of that. They are, let me tell you, the best-selling artist in South Korea of all time. They have the best-selling album in Korean history. They're given most of the credit for popularizing K-pop in the US, and they have not had a break since they formed in 2013, 6 years ago. In that time, they have released multiple singles in multiple languages every year since. They have 6 full-length albums. They've done 5 tours. They've even addressed the United Nations. I mean, it goes on and on. So their label, Big Hit Entertainment, announced this break on Twitter. They said for the first time since their debut, BTS will be going on an official and extended period of rest and relaxation. Going on to say this period of rest will be an opportunity for the members of BTS to recharge and prepare to present themselves anew as musicians and creators, and will provide them a chance to enjoy the ordinary lives of young people in their 20s, albeit briefly, and saying the members will rest in their own personal ways.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really a chance for them they probably have not ever had.
And now they have a chance to go spend all those millions that they are making now.
Yes.
They also have millions of fans. Not taking this news well.
Oh, millions of fans. I mean, 21.3 million followers on Twitter.
Wow.
Huge amounts. And you know, the label, Big Hit Entertainment, they kind of preempted how they thought fans might react in their letter, a line in that letter as well. They said, should you have a chance encounter with a member of BTS while they are on vacation, we ask that you show consideration for their need to rest and enjoy their private time off. Basically, yeah, give them a break, leave them alone. But you know what? Fans are actually taking this pretty well, because hundreds of thousands of fans, actually they're called the BTS Army, they have left messages of support on Twitter using hashtags like Rest Well BTS, Happy Vacation BTS. And you know, as for when they will be back, as for how long this break will last, it may not actually be that long, because according to their label's website, they have shows scheduled in Saudi Arabia and also in Seoul in South Korea, 3 shows in August. In October.
That's not much of a break at all.
Yeah,
You know,
so maybe just a break till October.
If they stay away too long, some other boy band will come to fill the vacuum. Maybe they're afraid of that.
Exactly. That is a very good point.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Look at your beautiful waterfront. Okay, the skies are a little dark tonight. We had a mix of rain and shine today. Will that mixture continue as the week goes on? Colin Kennedy will join us one last time with a look at your weather. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Today's Show Us Your GTA is the Sweet Treats Special Edition. This delicious-looking picture was taken by MKT350 of this ice cream that's just calling my name. Oh, my goodness. It was taken as chocolat favori. Thanks for sending this in and making us hungry. And I got a crazy sweet tooth, too. Get your photos to us by posting them on Twitter or Instagram with the hashtag CBCYourGTA, and we will air some of them on the show.
I'm assuming those were truffles on there, but at first it looked like olives.
No, no.
But I actually would eat that.
I don't know about olives on my ice cream, Colette, but I'll take some truffles.
Sweet and savory.
And it's still ice cream weather out there. Come on.
Oh, yes, absolutely it is. Even when it cools down a little bit towards midweek, we're still going to be in ice cream weather. But let me show you what we have for overnight tonight. We're talking about 18 degrees. We do have some extra cloud cover, still some spotty showers out there now, but we'll actually see a clearing trend. So coming to partly cloudy skies through the overnight hours and certainly drying up as well. And then tomorrow afternoon, 26 degrees at least. Still some humidity, but not quite as humid as today. And it's looking pretty good. It's just as we get towards Wednesday, Thursday, Dwight, we get into some temperatures a little bit cooler, but like we were talking about, they'll start to ramp back up for the weekend.
Time for the weekend, just the way we like it. That's it for us tonight. Thank you for watching. Mike Wise has you covered at 11. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a great night.